My name's Clara. I've covered sports stories for years, gritty underdog tales, fairy tale comebacks, and yes, some scandals too. But nothing prepared me for what happened inside USA Gymnastics. This isn't about medals, it's about a friendship turned feud, and a secret that shook the most powerful woman in gymnastics to her core. The world knew Simone Biles as the GOAT, smiling, unstoppable, gravity-defying. She flipped through expectations and landed in history. But behind that power, there was MyKayla Skinner, a shadow the world chose not to see. They trained together, laughed together, and, at one point, they even cried together. But years later, one would accuse the other of emotional cruelty, and the other would finally break her silence. In 2014, Simone and MyKayla shared more than just the same training gym. They shared a dorm room. At Karoli Ranch, the Olympic factory, girls became soldiers. They woke up at dawn, trained past sunset, and every calorie, every smile, every bruise was monitored. Q 2016, everyone knew who'd make the team. Simone was a lock, but MyKayla, she was a maybe, a bubble athlete, and when the final roster came out, she was left off. The moment was televised. You can still find the clip, Simone's celebration, MyKayla's silence. That night, she posted, "Hard to smile for cameras when your dreams die on national TV." But it wasn't just disappointment. It was the beginning of a fracture, because MyKayla claimed Simone mocked her behind the scenes. Whispers, laughter, group chats she wasn't in. Simone never responded. Publicly, she was silent. Privately, we now know she was keeping a folder. Simone Biles was never the type to clap back online. But that didn't mean she wasn't watching. Inside her locked iPad was a folder named Control. It had screenshots, DMIs, clips from interviews, even MyKayla's old blog posts from 2012, ones laced with passive digs and coded bitterness. Sometimes they choose smiles over strength. MyKayla had once written, "Not every gold medal is earned." Simone never showed it, not to coaches, not to press, but she saved it all. "I wasn't going to be painted as the villain," she once whispered to her therapist. "If the world ever turned on me, I'd show them who really cracked first." The Tokyo Olympics were supposed to be Simone's swan song. Instead, the world watched as she pulled out, citing mental health, trauma, safety. Millions. EMPATHIZED. But one tweet, from one former teammate, went viral. "Some of us weren't given the luxury to quit." It was from MyKayla. Then came the interviews, thinly veiled jabs. Talk of real grit versus brand protection. And the tabloids ran with it. MyKayla Skinner slams Biles' Tokyo exit. Former teammate calls out Simone's weakness. Simone didn't reply. But that folder, it grew, behind closed doors. USA Gymnastics was in chaos. PR teams tried to salvage reputations, brands demanded explanations, and suddenly, both women were offered the same thing, a joint interview, CBS, primetime, two Olympic warriors clearing the air. MyKayla agreed, Simone declined, but when the producers leaked the pitch online, it created a storm. Was Simone hiding? Was MyKayla desperate? Public lines were drawn. #Team Simone, #Justice for MyKayla. But the real story, it was still buried under the surface. Months later, in a podcast no one expected to go viral, a third gymnast, Anonymous, spoke up. There were clicks. There was mental warfare. And not all the bullies looked like coaches. Fans dissected every sentence, her tone, her pauses, and everyone agreed she was talking about MyKayla. Days later, Simone reposted the clip with a single emoji. It wasn't confirmation, but it wasn't denial either. Then, MyKayla posted a tearful video, calling it a smear campaign. She said Simone was weaponizing silence. She won the world's sympathy. "I wasn't allowed to hurt. I wasn't allowed to speak." In an attempt to control the damage, MyKayla appeared on national TV. She looked directly at the camera. "If I ever made Simone feel less than, I'm sorry, but I won't apologize for being ambitious." It trended hard. But Simone's response? A captionless photo, her in a leotard, staring into a mirror. Back turned to the camera. No words, only a pose. But in the background, on the mirror, a post-it note. "Never owed you silence." Behind the scenes, a name kept coming up. Victor Denton, sports agent, brand builder, image shaper, He had signed MyKayla after Rio. He encouraged her to lean into the underdog narrative, the whispers said. He told her to lean against Simone, that framing her as the realist gymnast would spark sympathy and clicks, and it did. But now, with backlash rising, he dropped her, just like that. "You're not profitable anymore," his email read. "Damage control isn't part of our brand package." 1 month later, a whistleblower released internal emails. Among them, one bombshell. Victor to MyKayla. "If Biles breaks down in Tokyo, we win the PR war. Frame it right. Control the victimhood narrative. You'll be untouchable." It was cold, calculated, and now public. MyKayla went offline. Sponsors dropped. Fans apologized. Too late, Simone. She posted one word: proof. The showdown happened backstage. Not in front of cameras, but in a gym. Years later, during a documentary filming. Simone and MyKayla crossed paths. They didn't hug. They didn't fight. They just stood in silence. Until Simone spoke. "You weren't the only one hurting, but you made sure I bled for it," MyKayla whispered. "I wanted the world to see me. I didn't think they'd erase you to do it." Simone walked away. But before she left, she turned back. "You never had to erase me. You just had to believe you were enough." Years passed. Simone returned to gymnastics. Quietly, elegantly, she didn't chase gold. She chased peace. Meanwhile, MyKayla opened a gym, taught girls, taught herself the Feud. Frozen in time online, forever. But in one interview, Simone said, "I don't hate her. I just know who she chose to become when it mattered." They both flew. They both fell. Just differently. MyKayla fell from grace, then rebuilt herself. Simone fell inward, then chose herself. There were no winners, only survivors. Because in the world of elite sports, ego isn't just armor. It's the weight you carry when no one claps. Years passed, yet the whispers never stopped. Gymnastics forums, Reddit threads, TikTok edits, everyone had an opinion. Who was right? Who deserved forgiveness? Who was still bitter? But here's the truth: no one posted. Both of them still dreamed about the mat. Simone. In her dreams, she ran too fast, vaulted too hard, and missed the landing. MyKayla, she stood at the edge of the beam, unable to move. Frozen, forgotten. They weren't fighting anymore. They were haunted by what could have been, by what was said, by what WASN single quotes to asterisk. One day, long after cameras stopped calling, MyKayla sat at her desk and wrote a letter. She never planned to send it, but she needed to write it. "Dear Simone, I resented you for being everything I wanted to be: effortless, loved, protected. I thought hurting you would balance the scale, but now I see. I only made it heavier for us both." She folded it, slipped it into a book. Simone would later find it not from MyKayla directly, but from a mutual friend who passed it along. Years later, Simone didn't reply, but she didn't throw it away either. Simone now trains younger gymnasts, not just for medals, but for mental survival. She tells them, "The gold doesn't matter if you lose yourself in the process." And when they ask about MyKayla, she smiles faintly. "We both taught the world something. She taught them not to underestimate hunger. I taught them not to mistake silence for surrender." Their legacy wasn't about perfect routines. It was about imperfect women, in an unforgiving sport, who dared to speak, hurt, and heal. No ending, no applause, just two women, finally, at peace, even if not together. Time passed, medals tarnished, spotlights dimmed, but the scars, they shimmered differently. Simone no longer flinched at applause. She taught young girls how to love their strength before the world asked them to prove it. MyKayla, too, had found a rhythm, not in routines, but in reflection. One day, at a private event honoring retired Olympians, their names were announced side by side. They didn't sit near each other. They didn't make eye contact. But when a young gymnast approached them both, clutching a program and asking, "How do you deal with pressure?" they looked at each other for the first time in years. And Simone said, "Pressure reveals your truth," MyKayla added softly, "or your regrets." The girl smiled. Neither woman did. But for a brief second, they were aligned. Years later, a streaming service approached Simone with a pitch, a full documentary about her life, including Tokyo, mental health, and yes, MyKayla. She hesitated. Until the producer said, "We don't want to paint her as a villain. We want to show how fame splits people." Simone agreed, but under one condition: she wouldn't narrate it. They would. Together, two voices, two truths. Sosha called MyKayla. There was silence, then a simple reply, "It's time." The documentary, titled Uneven Ground, aired worldwide. It didn't offer a clean resolution, but it offered something more powerful. Perspective. Simone was naturally gifted, effortless, joyful, a golden child. MyKayla, she was pure grit. She always got it in one try. MyKayla would later say, "I had to bleed for every turn." But back then, they weren't enemies. They were teammates. Until Rio,